Are you on your path to becoming more confident and more in your power? And do you often find it challenging in life because there's certain situations or aspects of life and society that pull you back into your old patterned ways of behaving in terms of feeling bad about yourself and comparing yourself to others and constantly seeking that external validation? This can be one of the challenges on your path to feeling more self-confident and standing in your power. In this video, I want to get into aspects of life and society and growing up, and even a little bit of evolutionary psychology that go into reasons why it is hard for us to stand in our power, because a lot of aspects of society allow this need for external validation, okay? And in evolutionary psychology as well, we've been conditioned for thousands of years to want to be accepted in the in-group. And so we will change our ways and compare ourselves to others in order to be accepted. And so I want to get into a few layers of this and for you to be mindful of, so that you can be aware of this on your own path to continuing to try to be more of your own authentic self and to be confident. And I'm also going to get into ways in which you can embody your truth more and more every day in a society that is constantly trying to get you pulled back into that comparing yourself to other people and trying to seek that external validation. So the first thing that I want you to know is that we as humans are wired to have that need to want to belong to a group, okay? But the difference between today and, thousands of years ago when we lived in small tribes and, didn't have the opportunity like we do today to have so many different types of groups and people around us, some of us on a daily basis. So when we were in tribes, we didn't have that many people. And so, and we didn't live in, modern society, like we lived in the forests and tribes and stuff like that. And so we needed to survive, and it was very important. Otherwise, and if you didn't conform to the group and get along, then you would end up dying, right? So, but that wiring of needing to be accepted in a group is still within us, right? And it makes sense because as humans, we need one another to survive. Like if you're on your own, I'm pretty sure that people die when you're like completely alone. Especially as people get older, you need that social interaction because it's imperative for our health. So there is an aspect of, wanting to feel a belonging in a group that is healthy. But in today's society, you don't have to be something that you're not, because no matter who you are, there are so many humans out there today, so many different groups and cliques and, interests that you would for sure find your tribe. And this is only if you're being your authentic, confident self. So that's an evolutionary perspective, which makes sense as humans. We need one another. But like I said, we don't need to be something that we're not, because there are so many people around us that we are definitely going to find our tribe so long as we're being ourselves. Now I'm going to get into some things or aspects of society that reward this external validation and reward you for certain things that don't necessarily involve you being a good human, but more so, how much you're able to produce, or the person that works the most. Regardless, we We praise people and we give admiration to others, not for being their authentic self, but more so for the production of work. Okay, so one aspect that I can think about in society is work in general. A lot of you may feel like you can't be your authentic self, and when you are, this will get reprimanded. A lot of jobs require you to be, maybe if you're in sales, aggressive with people to try to get them to buy things. I used to be a server and a salesperson, and I would feel that pressure. One example that I could think of was when I sold eyewear, and whenever I saw a family that came in and they didn't have benefits, I would always try my best to give them the best deal, because I also came from a family that wasn't well off. I only had one parent working and we didn't have benefits either. And so I could relate. And so I was trying to be helpful. I was being myself. And I actually used to get in trouble for this from my boss. And so that's just an example of so many other examples and so many other lines of work where you are not being reflected back or shown that, being you and being authentic and real and helpful is something good, that you don't get praised for it. So as you are on your own self-confidence journey or your own self-empowerment journey, authenticity, being yourself, this is one aspect to be mindful of in your own life, is asking yourself, like, and I'm not saying, oh, like, leave your job if it doesn't, like, if you're not able to be yourself, because a lot of our jobs, we're doing a job and we're, to make money so that we can pay our bills and eat. Okay, what I'm saying is to be mindful of these aspects in society, because sometimes they can pull you into that trap of stepping out of your power and back into needing that external validation from people. So to be aware of this and not to conform to it. Okay, so something like this, if you have a job that requires you to act in ways that necessarily aren't, yourself, or if you're not getting rewarded or praised for the amount of work that you do, and you see other people getting these praises and this attention, to really sit back and ask yourself what it is that you think about the work that you've been doing, right? And to notice if you start feeling like you're looking at, you see that other person getting attention for all their work, and to notice that, to let the feeling in your body be the indicator. The feeling in your body, your mind, your heart, like when you start to feel like shit, and be like, oh, it's there, right? And attend to that feeling and ask yourself, why am I feeling like this? Okay. And then maybe you'll realize, well, I'm focusing on that person and they're getting attention and praise for all the hard work that they're doing, but I've worked my ass off, right? So break it down to better understand how you're feeling. And then you can get to that point where you ask yourself, well, do I think that I do enough work? And get used to evaluating your own self. I feel like we live in a society where we were always evaluated by our teachers from a young age, from our parents. Our parents said, don't do this, do that. At school, it's like, don't do this, do that. And you're praised for doing that. And even if that wasn't you. Okay, so don't feel too bad if you feel bad about yourself, because I think most of us are just programmed like this. Okay, so going back to the work situation, being mindful of, because we're at work sometimes 40 plus hours a week. So these situations are, and these, work environments, like, that's your reality. So that is shaping you and your mind and your beliefs. And like I said, most work placements, right? Most structures or the system is made for you to, like a student, do what you're told. And when you do what you're told, even if it goes against your own morale, then you are praised, right? So to start doing the your own self-evaluation, okay? And to not allow that type of energy to creep into you and steal and take away your authenticity. Okay, so a workplace is one aspect, right? I got into another one earlier, school, when we were younger, okay, and even growing up, right? They reward certain things, which are fine, right? But what I notice is that they never rewarded children for, not never, I'm sure some kids got rewarded for some things. I'm not saying that it's the same all over the map, but from my own experience, it's like kids aren't rewarded, or teachers aren't taught to reward kids for certain things like being themselves, being authentic, sharing, caring, right? Maybe if you had that one special teacher that acknowledged that type of behavior and reflected that back to you, that is amazing, because that's what we should be doing as a society, right? Is acknowledging that kind of stuff. But mainly you're getting, just like your job, you're getting rewarded for, you doing lots of work or the best work, and just for performance, really, not for who we are as individuals. So again, to be mindful, if you have children yourself, right, is to, I heard this story, actually, one of my coaches told about his buddy. His buddy's daughter came up to him. She was probably 5 or something, I'm not sure, like super young, daughter or son. And she said, "Oh, Daddy, like, what do you think about my picture?" And in that moment, his dad said, "Well, what do you like about your picture? Do you like it?" Right? Like, and isn't it interesting how she came up to get that validation from her father? Probably because of society, and it starts in school, and probably with parents maybe too, but he's changing the response here, right? Which is good. But with teachers, it's like teachers are always validating their students, grading them, right, on their performance. And what the dad did in that moment was turned it back on her and said, "Well, what do you think about it?" Right? Think how much that empowers someone, and even empower that little child. Because in that moment, the child's like, "Oh, what do I think? Oh. She might even feel a little weird, because she's not used to being asked that question. She's just used to somebody, like, waiting for somebody to tell her, like, what they think. Right? And if they say, "Oh, I don't like this isn't good enough," then the child's gonna feel shame and feel sad. But then if the teacher says, "Oh, this is great," then the child's gonna be like, "Yay, great," right? And then you end up going throughout your entire life like that, or at least I did, right? Like, I was always waiting for that external validation, and I just felt so good when somebody complimented me. But just that small example right there is like you're giving the person back their power, okay? And so you can do this for yourself when you are evaluating what you think, instead of giving the teacher or your boss or even like your friend or some person that's evaluating you, instead of giving them the power completely, also involve yourself in that inquiry about yourself, right? And how many of us do that? So I really liked that story because it's a perfect example of how we need to learn and how we need to condition ourselves to bring the focus back to ourselves on our journey of confidence, of authenticity, of self-empowerment, of self-inquiry, right? Self-evaluation. am not saying to rid of everyone else's evaluation of you, but I think the number one evaluation that should be trusted first and always is your. And then when we're able to embody this way of being and embody this truth, then the evaluation of others like will be more like if we feel one way about ourselves, okay, and we know that to be true, and then somebody else that we're not even really close to, okay, says the total opposite. Oh, well, you're terrible. You're not really good at that. Oh, blah, blah, blah. And then you have somebody else that say, knows you really well and is close to you. They end up reflecting back the same thing that you think about yourself, right? And maybe, so in that moment of like you're always going to have different evaluations, is my point, from other people, because everyone's coming from their own perspective anyways, right? But the perspectives or the evaluations that you'll trust will align more with maybe your evaluation. And even if the evaluation is not so much like your own self-evaluation, maybe it's somebody close to you that's trying to be honest with you, like, oh, well, this is kind of the way I see it, and maybe you should work on that, right? But again, everyone's evaluation is coming from their own perception. But at the same time, people close to you and the evaluations you'll trust will ring true and will feel right inside of you. But your evaluation of yourself will always come first. Beauty standards and image culture are another aspect of society that will try to pull you into that needing of that external validation and pull you out of your self-empowerment, your authenticity. And it's something to be aware of. Even if you think that, yeah, I'm confident, I don't follow these people or the trends or this or that, like, because I say that myself, right? But sometimes we won't notice that we're feeling bad about ourselves because we're, I don't know, looking at pictures of people in Hollywood, like famous people and how they look, and their body type, their makeup, all this stuff, because sometimes, like I said, we fall back into these old patterns of falling into society's ways of being and feeling insecure, because like I said, a lot of systems in general want to keep you not in your authenticity and constantly comparing yourselves to others and looking outside of you to find something that will make you feel better about yourself. So to be mindful of looking at social media or magazines or people talking about like the social norms around your appearance, like not getting pulled into this can be a real challenge when everything around you is, like culture and beliefs, that are all the same and trying to get you to feel bad about the way you look, the size of your body, if you're wearing makeup or not. I was just talking to my partner the other day about how we live in a society where it's weird for women to not wear a bra, right? Like if you're smaller chested like myself, and like sometimes I don't want to wear a bra with a specific dress because it's tight enough, and if I wear a bra, like it just won't, whatever. Regardless, I don't want to wear a bra, and sometimes you can see my nipples. And for me, I think that I should feel okay not wearing a bra, but I still do feel uncomfortable because it's not the social norm to do that where I live. And now maybe other parts of the world you can do something like this, which that would be great because then I wouldn't feel so uncomfortable. But again, see, like that's me, like one aspect that I feel uncomfortable with, because I feel like people look at that as like nipples as like sexual. It has to be this sexual thing. And oh, if you can't have the children looking at that, or the guys are gonna see it and want to like feel a certain way. Like, I don't think that it should be like that. It shouldn't be like a sexual thing or only a sexual thing. But this is just our social norms where I live, and so I get pulled into that. Plastic surgery apparently has become a huge thing, right? Like, getting older in society, right? And getting wrinkles, especially as a woman, is not looked upon as something good or something attractive. And this is why stuff like plastic surgery and makeup and all these different forms of external things that like consumerism tries to manipulate us into buying only perpetuates this feeling of insecurity, right? Not in our authenticity, not in our realness and our rawness of being ourselves and being human. And aging is a part of being human. And so, again, a part of society is that pulling us into what they think that we should do with ourselves, and pulling us out of our inner authority, our own sovereignty of ourselves. So to be mindful of all of these aspects that I'm talking about within your own life, and to acknowledge when it happens, when you start to feel that insecurity or feeling bad. Because if you don't acknowledge it when it happens, it will take over your automatic responses to your life. It'll take over who you are, right? Like, you'll constantly be triggered and get upset when you're, when you're caught in that comparing yourself, and you see other people doing better, and you see other people looking younger, and you see other people performing better, and right, like, you'll get pulled into that loop that is there for a reason. They want you, society, whatever, want you to be in that loop, okay? And when you're in that loop, you're not in your authentic self. You're not in your own power. And when you're in that loop, you're constantly you're upset, right? Because so many things outside of you are doing better than you or better than you. And so this creates continuous upset within you, and is not good for your overall health, your well-being, and your overall experience in general. When I catch myself in the loop, okay, feeling bad about myself, I stop and ask myself, what's the truth of this situation, Kylie? Okay? Say it's, that example that I gave you earlier when my boss, didn't like that I was giving deals to these families, okay, that didn't have benefits when I was getting in shit for that, okay? Say I felt bad about that, like, right? He gave me shit. I felt bad about myself. Then I would ask myself, what is the truth of this situation, right? So doing that self-evaluation, instead of just taking my boss's evaluation, asking myself, what do I think about what happened here? Well, I feel like I did the right thing. And then I start to feel better, because I'm standing in my power, instead of just taking in the thoughts, the opinions, the feelings, the energy, the overall energy from the other person, and taking that as truth. No, that's their truth. That's not my truth. So becoming aware when it happens, when you feel the shitty feelings inside of you, you get angry, you get annoyed at somebody, right? For, doing better than you, or getting rewarded, or what have you, okay? And asking yourself, what do I feel? Okay, I can give you another example. I'd often I don't even go on social media a lot, but when I would, I'd see like other coaches or therapists, and their social media doing really good, and their content really good, and and I would all of a sudden start to feel that feeling of like feeling shit about myself, because like I'm comparing my what I do to what they're doing, and how they're further than me, or they're better, right? And I started to feel it in my body. And And then when I became aware of it, I was like, whoa, what am I doing? Can't be doing this. Then I asked myself, what is the truth of this situation, Kylie? Right? Well, the truth is that that person, right, has been doing this much longer than me. So what is the truth of that? Well, that means they've been working a lot harder and they put a lot more energy, and it's been a longer time than me, than I've put in. Oh, okay, well that makes logical sense, right? And at the same time, bringing that focus back to myself and being like, wow, like look at what I've done already. Look what I've accomplished already, and praising myself. This is another aspect of your confidence journey, and separating yourself from that external validation energy is not only evaluating yourself but celebrating yourself. Okay, so I'm sure you get the point now. All of these aspects in society, I just want you to stay mindful of, because like I said, we live in a time where people make money off of your insecurity, okay, in a lot of different ways. And so this is my point of trying to help you to understand that society system and the way it is not on your side, and they're going to continue to try to break you down. And not all parts of society do this. I'm just saying some, okay? And even the ones that I listed today, those are just some examples. There's many more. And my point of this video is to help you to become aware of those parts in society that will try to bring you down on your becoming more authentic, more confident, and standing in your power journey, okay? And I gave you some exercises that you can do when you start to feel bad about yourself. You can also journal everything that you're feeling, okay? Write it down in your journal. You can talk to yourself and also ask yourself, what is the truth of this situation? Well, the truth is that I've been working my ass off. Yeah, that person's been working hard, but so have I. And to celebrate yourself and to not need your boss or your coworker or somebody to acknowledge this. Even with the way you look, the way you feel, the things you do in life, you as a parent, as a friend, evaluate yourself first. And you'll find that the more you start evaluating yourself and not asking other people, the more you'll then start to hold yourself accountable for the things in your life in general. Being a better friend to yourself, being a better friend to your friends, being more productive at work and doing your best and giving it your all in all areas of your life. You'll start to hold yourself accountable because you're the one evaluating yourself. So overall, becoming more empowered and evaluating yourself and becoming more confident really allows you to fully stand in your power without that external authority and external energy giving you that validation. So remember to pay attention to your bodily sensations, to your feelings, okay? Because these are all indicators of what is going on within your mind, okay? These are all indicators of maybe you're getting pulled in to the feel bad about myself, compare myself energy again, okay? Ask yourself, oh, what am I feeling? Why am I feeling this? What's happening in my external environment? And then you're able to change, bring yourself back to your center. Ask yourself, what is the truth of this situation? Okay? Awareness is key, literally, to evolving your consciousness, expanding your awareness, and increasing your confidence, your inner confidence, and your overall sovereignty in this life. It's all about becoming a leader, not to control others or to control people in general, but to lead from your heart, from your authentic self, so that energy can also inspire others to do the same. And imagine a world of everyone leading from their heart center, okay? If you liked this video, you might like another video that I have called How to Be Magnetic Without Trying. Attract through your energy and not effort. I'm going to link it above, okay? I hope you liked this video, guys. Thanks again for watching. Remember to like and subscribe for more content, and I will see you in the next video. Have a wonderful day, and remember to stay mindful.